A quick question to get our discussion started. Who makes a podcast in April and waits 8 months to make their second one? Well, it turns out I'm your guy. This is Deep Dive with Dano. I'm Dano, and I'm going to cue the crazy long intro song right now. Well, I would tell you I have a lot of explaining to do, but I really have no explanation other than, life's been a little busy, and I'm sure everyone uses that. That's more of an excuse than it is an explanation, but that's really the best I've got right now. But I'm excited to be back making my very second podcast. This is really happening. I'm pushing forward. And just like I stated before in the first episode, if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to that. But I still deal with the self-doubt, and but I got to push through that and do my very best to do this. So I wanted to share something with you I came across a couple months ago concerning it. It's a statistic specifically about podcasts, but really the thought line comes from how to be better than 95% of other people. And I want you to hear the audio. I'm going to play the audio. I want you to hear it. I think it's going to be better for you to hear that than for me to just tell you about it. So turn your radio up so you can hear this. And if you have to, I want you to replay this section of the podcast to really get what this guy's saying in this audio. So take a listen to this. I think you'll appreciate what he has to say here.
You can separate yourself from the pack so much more easily by being consistent than by being talented or enthusiastic. There's this stat that I love about podcasts. 90% of podcasts don't make it past episode 3. And of the 90% that do, 90% don't make it past episode 20. So by making 21 podcast episodes, you're in the top % of all podcasters ever in history. Consistency beats talent and enthusiasm.
21 podcasts. 21 podcasts would put you in the top 5%, or at least the top 10% of podcasters in all of history. I don't know what that says about me. I mean, I barely made it past the first one. And so I'm going to push through. This is something that I've wanted to do this for a long time. And really, there's no explanation, just not making time to do this and make it a priority. And I want to do it, whether it's helping any of the listeners or not. It really has helped me. I have notes. I have partially started podcast episodes and have just never pushed through them. And like I said, the self-doubt on this end is very real. And so here's the goal. And I'm not big in resolutions, but here's the goal. I'm going to at least get 21 episodes in before April of 2023. So I've got some work to do, and I hope that you'll stick around. I hope that it gets better as we move on. But here we go, episode number 2. And here's what I want to talk to you guys about now that we've talked about me for far too long. I want to talk about something this has been happening probably much longer than I am even aware of. I would say at least a decade, probably longer than that, but it seems to have greatly increased in the past, I would even say 5 years, maybe even the 2 years. And it's something that I think is really affecting culture, and I don't know that it's necessarily a good thing. And what I'm talking about is the win now culture. We see this play out in sports, especially in the college atmosphere. We're starting to see statistics that it's starting to show up in the high school a realm, and that is you either win now, championships now, and if you can't make that happen, then you're out. You are fired, and we're going to move on and find somebody else. But it's not just in the sports world either. I think we're starting to see it in every area of the workforce as well. Where I see it most generally show up in the work world is, I remember being in high school and a young adult, and there were a lot of places you could find work that no experience necessary and willing to train. And those words, those statements really aren't used a lot anymore. And I know maybe you are feeling it, and maybe you haven't realized it yet, but it just seems like the work world in general has this strong desire of 15 years experience, 10 years experience, 5 years experience. You have to bring some type of experience to the table before anyone's willing to entertain the idea of interviewing or offering you a job. And, it's a shame that we've lost that in the work world, the ability or the desire for bosses and employers that want to mentor young adults, show them the ropes, teach them. At some point, I remember also asking the question as a young adult, well, how do I get the experience if someone isn't willing to hire me to get the experience? Yeah, I just feel like that's a logical question to be asking. I would also add that in the realm of this win now culture, let me say this first. I get, there's apprenticeships, and can we just say the absurdity of modern day apprenticeships where we're expecting students or young professionals to get into an apprenticeship that pays them nothing or very little for their time, and we exhaust them. Most apprenticeships, if we're not careful or if we're honest with ourselves, there's a lot of apprenticeships out there that push young professionals to the brink of burnout before they ever even get a job that's paying them. And so what's the experience there? That this job's exhausting, that we're getting you to do the dirty work, the jobs no one else in the place wants to do, all in the name of experience? I don't know that the reward or the payoff is worth what we're offering young professionals and students. So, what does that mean for you as a young adult, as a young professional? Well, I think what's happening is that because of this win now mindset and culture, I see a lot of young adults who are paralyzed in attempting and trying anything. I'm a real life example, right? Like, I did one episode of a podcast, and because the numbers didn't fly off the chart, because I didn't feel like it was where I wanted it to be, because it wasn't exactly perfect, I wrestled and fought with whether or not to even do a second one, to even give myself a chance to be better at doing this. And I see that in a lot of young professionals. I don't have the skill set. I don't have the talent. I don't have the level of talent that I feel like I should have. And so I'm not even going to try. And so you avoid opportunities. You don't take, steps to stretch yourself, to go for a job that may be a little bit out of your league, so to speak, to take a chance and to, I guess, for lack of better terms, to take a bet on yourself. It's because we're taught that I can't win now, and I can't pull off this level of winning, or this level of professionalism or success in the professional world or the work world. So I might as well just kind of stay where I'm at, and I'm always going to be here. That's just the cards I've been dealt. Is there anything wrong with pushing yourself. No, absolutely not. That's not what I'm talking about. And I don't think that's what the win now culture is doing to us. There is a difference between stretching yourself, challenging yourself, competing to better yourself, but this idea that it has to be now or it's never going to happen is just absolutely absurd and ridiculous. So you as a young professional, what I want you to know is take the chance. Take the chance. Find some jobs that if you're looking for a certain area of jobs or an apprenticeship or maybe it's even a school that you're going to apply for, and you've sat down and you've allowed the voices in your head to convince you that that's not for you. You can't compete in that realm. I'm going to challenge you to take the chance. Fill out that application, make your resume, and give it a shot. And I also want to challenge you, and I want to encourage you, really, more so than challenge you in this, is that, hey, listen, you got to stop putting the pressure on yourself to be perfect or to be great now. That takes time. All of those people in that workforce and all of those people in any realm that you're looking at, it took them time and experience to get where they are. They did not show up on day one knowing what they know today. And so I just want to encourage you in that if you're willing to put in the time, if you're willing to invest in yourself, you'll get smarter, you'll get wiser, and you'll get better at whatever it is you feel called and led to do in your life. I can remember when I first started out doing the pastoring job, I used to get like on the verge of puking before I would get up and speak in front of the congregation or the church. I was so nervous, and I would work myself up into a frenzy. And that, I still get nervous. Don't get me wrong. Every week my nerves are a little bit on edge, but at least I don't feel like I'm going to puke anymore. I guess that's progress. But that came with time. That came with intentionality in perfecting, or maybe not perfecting, but improving over time, a little bit at a time through the years. I think I'm in almost 22 years of doing this now. And honestly, I'm not anywhere where I want to be. And those who have listened to me on a consistent basis maybe are thinking, yeah, you're way off. But maybe that's the case. But I still would say that I honestly feel like I've improved over time. And let me tell you a few things of why that's happened. I've already mentioned intentional in finding ways to grow. I critique myself. But here's the key. I've also had people in my life willing to take me under their wing and teach and show me and let me learn and grow. I am a product of a church who was willing to hire me young. I was 28 years old when I started this position that I'm in now. And they've been willing to let me and help me and watch me grow. And I think that is something that is missed in today's culture. And so I would challenge you to find some people, to find some folks that are willing to help you improve. Open yourself up to input. I want to say critique, not criticism, but critique and input that helps you see areas that you can improve in whatever field, every field, no matter what it is you put your hand to. It doesn't have to be public speaking. It doesn't even have to be, you could be training to be a carpenter, or you could be a sheet metal worker, but there's always room to improve. Don't ever get stagnant where you are. If you happen to be someone, and if you are listening to this podcast and you are in a position to hire folks, listen, give these young professional 20-somethings with little to no experience, give them a shot. And I'm not talking about some cheap apprenticeship where you pay them nothing and expect the world from them. Pay them a fair wage, but put them under your wings, or find your best employee and get them in a place where they can be mentored. Show them the ropes, teach them the ins and outs, and see what happens when you invest in the younger generation. You see, there's a lot of talk about the younger generation not wanting to work, and they just don't want to. And I've been thinking a lot on that, especially these last 2 years. And this is where I've come. Could it be that some of these young professionals are a little bit intimidated to enter the work world because they aren't finding a work world that's willing to teach and train them? They're expected and they are demanded to learn it now, to win now, to minimize mistakes, and to almost practically be where the employees who have been there for 20 or 30 years are. And it's an unrealistic expectation. And so if you are in a position, I don't know why you'd be listening to this podcast, but if you're in a position of hiring folks, then I'm going to challenge you to give some consideration of training, of mentoring, and developing some of these young professionals. Now, back to the young professionals listening. This is not an excuse to not go look for work. All right? This is not an excuse to sit at home for 16 hours a day and play Call of Duty because, well, the work world's unfair and I don't know enough, and so you've just given up altogether. So let me just challenge you a little bit on this to say, hey, it may take you some effort. It may take a little bit of extra energy to find the place you want to land in employment. And maybe you're in a job right now that you can't stand, and it's exactly how I've described. You keep pressing on. A very good rule of thumb that I was given at a young age is don't quit until you find the next landing spot. And so keep pressing on until that next opportunity arises, and be actively searching for that next opportunity instead of expecting it to land in your lap. But listen, don't use these shortcomings of the current cultural work world to keep you from reaching out, from pursuing, from investing in yourself, from going out and at least trying to attempt to find that spot. Like I said, it may not be a job that you want forever. And listen to me, when I tell you this, I am 100% accurate when I tell you this. Everybody has had to work jobs that they couldn't stand. Everyone has been in jobs in their early 20s, in their high school years, in their late 20s even. They've been in jobs that they knew were not going to be the forever job. But they went to work, they invested in themselves, they learned some skill sets that maybe weren't necessarily specific to where you wanted to be in the future, but all experience is beneficial. And so I want to challenge you to be proactive in finding those places. And maybe you can't find someone in your current workforce or in your current class or current university or current college, but there are people who are willing and wanting to invest in you and mentor you. But you have to be willing to initiate that conversation and be willing to ask. And it goes something like this. I don't know, fill in the blank. Hey, I was just wondering, I respect you a lot, and being at the age that I'm at, I could really use someone that's willing to just kind of put me under the wing, someone that's willing to just invest in me, show me some things, teach me some things. And I was wondering if you'd be willing to do that with me. And you could sit down and talk what that looks like. Maybe it's lunch every month, once a quarter, or whatever it is. But listen, everybody, let me say it this way. The people who are growing, the people who are moving forward, have people in their lives that have invested in them, mentored them, and brought them along. And so I want to encourage you to do that. I want to encourage you to think about this. I'm going to continue this topic in other series, but this is just what's been burning on my mind lately, and I hope that you'll consider it, take it to heart, and join me for the next podcast. I'd like to tell you when that is, but we all know that that's probably not a good idea, but there will be another one, and it will be much sooner than 8 months from now. Until next time, I'm Dano.